I guess one thing that we kind of start with is, it's only our second screening, but to talk a little bit about how this came about. Stephen, he came up with the idea, and he gave me a call one day, and he said, I've got this idea for a movie. And he said, it's called Jump Rope Sprint. A guy who comes up with a new sport. And of course, I imagined someone jumping rope and sprinting, and I thought, well, that sounds a little silly, Stephen. I mean, I'm not sure that, really? and he said, I'll come right over. So he shows up, and we go outside, and right in the middle of my street, he proceeds to jump rope sprint. And it didn't look too silly. And I thought, well, that looks pretty good. And then I proceeded to try. And he handed me the rope, and of course I couldn't really do it because I didn't know how yet. He'd worked at this, and my wife was watching us, and she started laughing at me. So I knew, okay, this might be a movie idea. I mean, it's a little humor here. My wife's laughing at me, and potentially this could be a legitimate sport. So maybe this will work. So we went about coming up with a storyline and heading off to Vancouver about a month later and beginning this journey. And the movie kind of unfolded,
Tell them who your wife is.
My wife is Kim Myers, who plays Eddie's wife in the movie, and so it was kind of a family affair. We Peter Wingfield, who's in it, who plays Smoley, he's a friend of mine as well, and we didn't know Max at the time. We hired a casting director who brought in quite a few people, and Max showed up, and we knew pretty quick. We said, "That's Uncle Charlie," and that was that worked out really well. But the interesting thing is how Stephen, and you should tell the story, how you actually came up with the whole idea, how this kind of came to you.
Well, I actually sprained my ankle and was rehabbing with the jump rope, and in the course of rehabbing, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if somebody tried to actually get this into the Olympics? And the interesting thing is, first of all, I'd like to ask, how many people in the room before seeing this movie have ever actually seen someone run as fast as they can while jumping a rope? So 2? So once again, it's pretty amazing. Well, of course, you guys have seen that as well. It's interesting. Ian, I forget your last name again.
Adamson.
Ian Adamson works for a company that designs special shoes. And what I just found out today was something pretty fascinating, and that is, and Ian can maybe elaborate for a moment, but he basically was saying that you're very familiar with people running with the jump rope because it actually helps with aligning with proper running technique. You want to say something about that?
Sure, yeah. So most people in the Western countries with big soft shoes learn to run with a heel striking gait. It's very unusual in runners. But the most common way we know to run with a heel striking gait, with a jump rope you can't do it. You cannot land on your heel. It's actually the most efficient way to run. All efficient runners run as if they're running with a rope, except, of course, their arms are different. So we use it as a training technique, and it's been around for as long as I know, 50 years in track. But not to run in competition, but as a technique for getting really efficient running form. And we use that for running form. There's videos online, right? If you look for running with a rope, you'll find these videos.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that when I actually started the project, Ian, I literally went on Google and there was nothing on the internet about running with the jump rope, even though, like you say, it has been around as a training method for decades. And so that's why I thought, well, if nobody's done this, then we might as well do it. Does anybody have any questions after watching the film about the sport, the movie, or anything? Yes?
I'm just wondering, when did you start working on this project?
A year and a half. Oh no, 2
Well,
years.
it was 2010, but it was right before, right before the Olympics.
Right
December
before
of 09.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started right in the beginning of 2010 when we started.
And what was your budget for the film?
It's small.
Yeah, we don't discuss it only because we're starting to talk to distributors now, and of course they all want to know what we made it for. We're being a little
but it wasn't low budget. It wasn't. It was actually.
Well, I can say one thing.
They paid me
It's
really
technically
big
under
bucks.
these.
Here's how you can figure it out. We made it as under the SAG ultra low budget agreement, and under that agreement, with deferrals, your budget can be as high as $500,000, but it cannot go over $500,000 with deferrals. So we were within the restrictions of that contract. If that helps a little bit.
Any other questions? Anybody else have thoughts or comments? Yeah, go
Would
ahead.
you actually like to see this get into the Olympics?
Well, that brings me to the next question. How many people here, after seeing the film, think this could be an event in the Olympics?
Absolutely.
I would take it over curling, that's for sure.
Yes.
I'm a very passionate
I want to go do it right now.
See, run in the snow with the skis and then shoot, if that's a sport.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, there's a jump rope. Well, you can go to jumpropesprint.com for more information on the movie and Buddy Lee and things like that, or videos. But jumproperun.com is an instructional video and instruction guide and all the work that I do with the athletes. Because I'm actually now a volunteer coach at the college. So this is something that we want to continue. I'm going to at least continue doing it because there's no downside. Yes?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, they will be online. I actually have about 3 or 4 of them, so if you want to talk to me, I actually have a few here.
But we're
Where
gonna.
can we get a widget?
You can go to Fwidget.com.
Fwidget.com.
Executive producers, yeah.
Yeah, well, the executive producer, this is another interesting story. Mark Kroll, our executive producer and financier of the film, he invented the Fwidget. And so it just became a component of the movie. And we finished the movie, and I said, you know, Mark, those 10,000 Fwidgets you have floating around, we're going to sell those. And he laughed. He said, whatever. But, you know, I'm feeling, you know.
Oh, yeah.
My whole approach in making the film was I wanted, you know, I basically wanted to create real backdrops and have the story unfold in real backdrops so that there was a kind of a hybrid between, you know, you didn't know whether it was real or not. And that's kind of fun thing about it is that even though the sport is in people's minds a silly idea, as a result of
the enthusiasm for the movie, what happened since then? Have you seen it sort of take off on its own? Has it gotten legs, as they say?
Well, we actually won our first film festival we entered last week in the All Sports LA Film Festival. We actually won the feature film category. So, and we have had we had a promo on the KTLA segment. And we have an article about us has just been published on the Livestrong, which is Lance Armstrong's website, and another article is going to come up on Yahoo Content. And
but have there been more competitions, I guess? Is what
And they're a special selection of the Paso Digital Film Festival.
Yes.
There's been one other competition, but basically this next year is when we really want to start ramping that up in terms of competitions. We want more.
That's like such a remarkably good original film.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like that. And secondly, I would think that ESPN and HBO Sports and all those people would eat it up down the line.
We're just, you know, the thing is...
I have one other question. It's so, I mean, the watching it is so amazing. I would think that could actually start a whole, that as being, I never heard anything about that. I was a teacher way back. I love sports all my life. I don't think probably anybody's ever even seen anybody do anything remotely like that, or seen the champion rope skipper.
Yeah, Buddy Lee, yeah.
So, but I was wondering one question. Was it hard to get all those great Olympic athletes and all those people to do that? They looked like they were having such a good time.
I'm going to defer to Ian because he literally just learned in a few minutes out there. Ian, why don't you talk about the learning curve that you go through?
We handed Ian a jump rope 2 hours ago. To try it.
Yeah, we were doing it out in the lobby.
It took about 40 yards to learn it.
Just a few tries up and down, right?
Yeah, it was four attempts, about 10 yards just across the lobby here.
What was your sport, Ian? I mean, what was your event? Were you a sprinter or a distance runner? Or?
My primary school was kayak. Use my arms, but
Can we
not
jump rope kayaking?
Yeah.
We know what I had a feeling watching it, especially the first time when I got it after Max told me about it and you guys sent it and I watched it. And for a while I watched it and I had this whole feeling like, wow, that's so great. I mean, this, like it, for a while I couldn't tell, like, wow, this really happened and this is so incredible. What a great, then it's like, oh my God, then for a while you don't know, did this really happen? Is this a real movie? Did they make this up? Is this a documentary? Is this totally fiction? And these guys have got, for a while you go in and out of, later in the movie then it just becomes a message.
Yeah.
The things at the end and, well now though, see, and here, now the way you guys are talking, I can see what's going to happen. It's still evolving. Now it's getting ready to, you just did a documentary on the future of what's going to happen.
We're still
now with this.
We're still shooting.
Well, speaking of the future, Bill, you have 2 of your sons here. What do you guys think about this? Do you think you could, did it make you want to do it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? So if I get you jump ropes, will you get some programs and competitions going in your school?
I can try.
All right, in a couple months I'll have you.
Cool.
You're all witnesses here.
Question.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, a couple of things. How did you get involved with so many Olympians and Buddy Lee? And it really brought
I'll start that story.
legitimacy to the whole project.
It's a fluke, and here's how it happened.
Well, we contacted Buddy Lee.
Well, Buddy Lee we contacted, and that was great.
It was amazing.
And that was a whole evolution on its own, how Buddy Lee happened. Yeah. But the other Olympians, what was interesting was we were actually at one of the amusement parks in Southern California. We were trying to set up a competition there.
Six Flags.
At Six Flags. And they said, well, if it doesn't happen here, we need a venue, we need a place to do it. And so we thought, well, where can we do it? And so we go to College of the Canyons, and we thought, well, nobody's going to come all the way out here to Santa Clarita for an event. And I said, Stephen, don't boo-boo it. Go. Just go out there and see what happens. So Stephen goes out there, and he looks around, he sees some women running around the track, and he starts jump rope
No,
sprinting.
I'm holding the camera, and I'm just filming the location, just kind of scoping it out. And Lashinda Demas comes walking up, and she says, what are you doing? I said, I'm filming the possibility of shooting a competition here with jump rope sprint races. And she looked at me and she says, I know how to do that. And I said, you do? I said, yeah, I got a jump rope. I said, will you let me film you? And then we were off and running.
How long did it take her to figure it out?
And so from her, I met Nikki Barber and Christine Spence, and then I met a couple of other people, and I could have gotten more, but it's funny, I didn't want to I wanted to see whether or not the activity itself would capture people's interest without having, legitimization, broad legitimization. And what's interesting is here I've made the film, it's 2 years, and I finally meet someone who has told me that there's a scientific basis for showing the jump rope sprint helps your running technique, and I never even knew that. Talk about following your intuition.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was that you at the movie playing the cameraman?
That was me that took that couple.
Oh my God. Steve is Steve the cameraman.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
I was going to say, it leads into my next question, actually. What I asked earlier is have you guys considered bringing this as a promotional thing to the U.S. Olympic trials?
Well, first of all, the Olympic Committee is very proprietary, as Ian will also probably attest to. And when we contacted them, they literally wanted to almost take over the film. So we said, okay, goodbye, bye, 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 bye. And then we went off and made our little film.
Yeah.
What we plan to do is over this next year, we have these new jump ropes, these special jump ropes that we've patented that are really efficient in helping people learn how to do it. And we're going to try to get jump rope sprint training programs and competition programs in schools at elementary, junior high, high school, and college all across the country.
That's awesome.
And in the process of doing that, we'll also, as you know, or as you can imagine, a jump rope is not something that's going to prevent any other country from taking up the sport. It's going to be very easy for all countries to compete and to have fun.
Wow.
With it. And so we just want to eventually start having world championships and we're going to see. And basically what I'm going to do is try to continue to make movie with Eddie kind of being the alter ego of both me, Eric, and Mark Kroll, the executive producer, and film and document the emergence of the sport and letting the story unfold at the same time. So it's like an experiment, it's kind of a hybrid kind of thing.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah. Can I say, first, that these three young people here and not quite as young a person. We're all in a movie that screened last night. They're all from Portland. About dealing with bullying.
Oh, wow.
But definitely a film with people with a vision to put a movie together and make it happen. And it was really quite wonderful. And their work is all wonderful. So for down the road, be sure that they, just because we talk about all right. And I just wanted to say, and I know this is going to be a great question coming up from this guy because he's, that what I love about this movie is all we've been talking about for a couple of days about vision, keeping your vision, doing something that, I mean, it's wonderful how it's unfolding in unpredictable ways. But I love that feeling that you guys held, and it showed up in the performances, and about that, sticking with it.
Just think
and
how-
always with the questions of what's the right thing to do to honor your friends or your family. You know,
Yeah.
wonderful
Well,
elements.
well,
of the
just imagine
storytelling.
how much fun you guys will have, or fond memories you'll have of this movie, if one day you actually see this sport in the Olympics. It will actually make your experience today even more enjoyable. 'Cause you go, I was there at the
This is
beginning.
true art. Art. This is really true art creating reality. You know what I mean?